You know, when you look at an ancient land deed, it can seem, well, pretty dry. Just a list of old names and places, right? But what if that list actually tells an incredible story about how a nation literally carves out its home? Today, we're going to decode one of those exact documents to see how a promise becomes a real place on the map. Let's dive in.
This is the big question, isn't it? It's one thing to be promised a homeland, but it's a whole other thing to actually draw the lines on the ground, to turn an idea, a divine promise, into physical reality. That's the journey we're taking today.
Okay, the one word we really need to wrap our heads around here is inheritance. In this context, it's so much more than just property passed down. You have to think of it as the foundational act of building a country. This isn't just about owning land. It's about identity, it's about destiny, it's about the very ground a people are going to call home for generations.
So who gets this monumental inheritance? Well, it's the descendants of Joseph, specifically his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. These two tribes together form what's called the House of Joseph, and it's their massive territory that we're about to explore.
All right, let's zoom in and start tracing the map. Imagine we're right there with these ancient surveyors, unrolling the scroll to mark out the boundaries of this brand new territory, starting from that great river in the east and heading all the way to the sea.
Every map has to have a starting point, right? You are here pin. For the lands of Joseph, it all kicks off right here, at the Jordan River, just next to the ancient famous city of Jericho. This is our anchor point on the eastern edge.
And from the Jordan, this boundary line goes on a pretty dramatic journey. First, it climbs up through the rugged desert hills to a place called Bethel. Then, it pushes west, crossing through a few other territories before it finally heads down toward the coast and stretches all the way to the Mediterranean. It's a complete cross-section of the entire land.
Okay, so now that we have that big picture for the whole house of Joseph, the text zooms in even further. It wants to show us how this massive area was divided up. So now we're going to focus on the specific, precise borders for just one of those tribes, Ephraim. Now here's what's so interesting. Look at this border. It's not a straight line drawn with a ruler. Not at all. From its northernmost point, it curves and it winds its way east. It passes one landmark, dips down near another. It even touches the outskirts of Jericho before it finally lands back at the Jordan River. This is a very organic, landmark-based boundary. The western border, on the other hand, is a lot more straightforward. It starts at a place called Tapua, and then it basically just follows a natural landmark, the Kana Ravine, and takes it straight out to the Mediterranean Sea. And with that, the map for the tribe of Ephraim is complete. Or is it?
Just when you think the map is all settled and clean, the text throws in this fascinating little curveball. Turns out the borders weren't perfectly neat. Ephraim had its main territory, sure, but it also had control of certain towns located deep inside the land of their brother tribe, Manasseh. This tells us there was this really complex, intertwined relationship between them from the very beginning. And that brings us to the final and honestly the most crucial part of this whole story. Because as we're about to see, drawing lines on a map is one thing. Actually controlling the land in reality, well, that can be something else entirely. So this gets us to the one question that kind of hangs over this entire inheritance. After all that careful surveying, all the line drawing, was the land actually truly theirs? And there it is. The text gives us the answer in this one stunning final sentence. It just plainly states that one of the key cities inside their border, Gezer, was never conquered. The original inhabitants, the Canaanites, they just stayed. And that single detail changes everything. So let's break down this really complex reality on the ground. First, the Canaanites were still there, living in the city. Second, they lived among the people of Ephraim, not in some separate area. But third, and this is key, it was not an equal coexistence. The Canaanites were forced into labor. It's a messy, complicated, and totally unresolved situation.
So what started out as what we thought was a straightforward legal text, a land deed for a new nation, it ends with this profound twist. It shows us that building a nation isn't just about drawing borders. It's about navigating the incredibly complex realities of the people who are already living there.
And that's the thought I really want to leave you with. This ancient text pushes us to ask a question that's just as relevant today as it was then. What does an inheritance even mean when it's not exclusively yours? It shows us that a home can be a promise and a reality, but also a conflict and a compromise all at the very same time.